Welcome to Tousi TV, your global news channel. We have some breaking news coming from the continent of Europe. Yes, the French government and Prime Minister Bayrou are in huge trouble. President Macron is facing yet another difficult political decision, and the National Assembly will be holding a vote of no confidence in the government. It's all kicking off in France following the recent clashes, political clashes in Parliament amongst, of course, the minority government and, of course, the other side, the oppositions, all over the place. Of course, the situation with the economy and the financial budgets of the country is in turmoil, and the cost of living crisis continues to get bad, and obviously the political divisions. Of course, the parties that are more anti-establishment are very much excited about this, to bring down the government, to have an opportunity, especially the national rally. We're going to give you guys all the updates. We have some statements, we have a video, and get your reaction live. Before we start, I got my haircut for the wedding. Compared to the previous live stream, I did give you a heads up. All that's gone, although it's not too short, is it? It's fine. Don't forget to download the Tousi TV app, the home of geopolitical news. If you want to stay up to date with all our news posts, podcasts, of course, live shows, you can all watch all that in one place, one-stop shop. Do that from your app stores. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening and how we have reached this point with the French government. There is now going to be a high stake. They're probably going to lose this, but we'll find out. No confidence vote in the National Assembly and Parliament on the 8th of September because of the unpopular plans presented by Prime Minister Bayrou to clean up France's public finances. Clearly, nobody seems to be united. Nobody is willing to make concessions, and they are calling, of course, his budget the austerity budget. Some of the people on the center-right, mostly the Republican Party, are backing it. The others are just saying this is not working. Not necessarily because of the policies, but because who is implementing it, who's presenting it, basically Bayrou and his team, and how they are going to be doing it. I think everybody knows, apart from the left wing in France, that something needs to be done about the budget, something needs to be done about the economy, considering France is facing major issues on a societal level, cultural level, with migration, mass migration, multicultural issues. You also need some sort of level of stability on an economic level. Otherwise, what is the point? There is absolutely no point in trying to pretend that you are a unified country if you don't have societal stability or economic stability. The finances in the government needs to be sorted out. Everybody knows that. But the issue is that it's so polarized that nobody can actually come to an agreement. The left are just saying, let's just raise more taxes and print more money. Same thing as the statists. They're just saying borrow and print more money. The people on the right are saying we have to lower taxes and cut the spending. Nobody is willing to come to the middle. Anyway, Prime Minister Bayrou will be moving for this plan to see whether he has enough support in this divided parliament, because his budget will be costing 44 billion euros. That's in case you're watching from North America, that's 51.5 billion US dollars. This will be a budget squeeze as he's trying to essentially tame this budget deficit. The focus is bringing down the deficit, essentially. That will be hitting 5.8% of GDP. Actually, this is in 2024 to 2025. This is nearly double the official limit set by the European Union that is supposed to be 3%. Even the European Union, even the centralized statist globalist European Union, they have a limit for your deficit, obviously in terms of percentage of GDP. It's supposed to be 3%. So even the crazy nutters in the EU know you shouldn't really go higher than 3% because it's completely chaotic. In France, it's 5.8%. And it's getting worse every day. Now, a year from now, if this doesn't change, we could have another live report and say, well, it's probably about 7-8%. Unless they do something about this. Now, of course, the opposition are all getting excited. We got the hard left and the LFI, as well as the right-wing party, the National Rally, who have both said that they would use the confidence vote to try to oust the globalist government. They are obviously they called the government a centralized government, which is kind of ironic coming from the far left, because the far left are agreeing with the National Rally, saying, well, we both have the same enemy right now. It's the government, the so-called centrist government. But the left-wingers are fascinating. The socialist side in France are saying, yes, the government has too much control. Vote for us. And people say, okay, so what will you do? More control, more taxes, more laws and regulation. Somehow, there is still a chunk of people in France, in the lovely France, especially in cities like Paris, that keep falling for the trap of the left. Because the left would say, well, we hate Macron. And they're like, well, yes, this is good. And they say, what are you going to do about it? Basically, same policies, just a little bit worse. But there are still some people, the so-called educated middle classes in urban areas of Paris and other places and other cities, who say, yeah, why not? Let's go with the left. But there's still a lot of other people in France who are waking up and they are backing the National Rally. We're going to talk about the National Rally in a second, because they are getting ready finally to make a huge move. If there is going to be a snap election, which is highly, highly likely, all you have to do is just wait another couple of weeks. 8th of September is a crucial date. And of course, Tousi TV will bring you guys live coverage from the National Assembly in France. Now, going back to the opposition and the reality of the situation. First things first, Jordan Bardella, the leader of National Rally, said that the Prime Minister has announced the end of his government, undermined by its complacent inaction. The National Rally will never vote in favor of a government whose choice caused suffering to the French people. Our fellow citizens are waiting for a change and a return to the ballot box. We are ready, declares Jordan Bardella, the leader of the National Rally. Now, all this aside, I think it's important to mention that the Prime Minister in France is slightly delusional. And I think it's probably best for him to think about retirement. And I think it's time for Emmanuel Macron to realize that he can't continue making stupid political decisions because he's damaging his own stupid legacy. The Prime Minister, Bayrou, has said, we face an immediate danger, no S Sherlock, which we must tackle. Well done. Otherwise, we have no future. There are moments when only a calculated risk can allow you to escape a more serious risk. It is a matter of survival of our state and the image of our nation and each and every family. What I love about some European governments is that, considering Europe mostly consists of very centralized governments, unlike, for example, the United States, they are very centralized. If you are leading a government in a Western European country, you are in charge. Why is it that when they fail, we had the same thing with Rishi Sunak in the UK, the former Tory Prime Minister, now Bayrou. They're saying, we have a problem. Things are falling apart. Somebody needs to do something. Yes, you. Their issue is that leaders don't lead anymore. The leaders follow. And they simply follow their wave, wherever the wind is coming from. They don't know how to lead. It's a catastrophe. So he's a little bit delusional. He's complaining, saying, well, yes, we must tackle the risk. Firstly, do you know what risk? Or are you just using random words? Secondly, it's your job to come up with proper policies. If you can't pass your unpopular budget, instead of having a meltdown and going into a no confidence vote, maybe sit down with your team and maybe with your other colleagues to realize, okay, perhaps we need to be a little bit tactful, politically speaking. Now, that aside, if the government does collapse, which they probably will, Emmanuel Macron faces the choice of either leaving Bayrou in place as the head of a caretaker government, which will be extremely controversial, or you could name another prime minister, or just call new elections. Firstly, the third one is the best option, But it's Macron, so he's probably going to go with the first one. Just keep Bayrou in place and there will be protests and riots. Now, Bayrou made his announcement after visiting the president in the south of France during holiday. He basically interrupted Emmanuel Macron's holiday, which was not a nice thing to do. And now we also have the head of France on Baud, Mélenchon, the socialist nutter, saying that it was Macron, rather than the prime minister, who was to blame for the economic situation that France found itself in. And he said that his party would propose a motion aimed at bringing the president down later next month. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Emmanuel Macron. It's not really a big surprise. Mélenchon, he is a fascinating creature. He's basically, in case you don't know him, if Jeremy Corbyn in the UK, Bernie Sanders in the US, and somehow we also bring in AOC, the three of them have a baby, it will be him. And firstly, he thinks he's charismatic. I think his supporters think he's charismatic. I'm not a fan of Macron. You can blame Emmanuel Macron on many things, including on societal level, constitutionally, the issue with multiculturalism and everything else, right? You need to take responsibility for who is running the actual government. It's the prime minister and his stupid party. You just want to bring down Macron because they think that this is a good chance for a socialist president. The last time you had a socialist president, about 10, 12 years ago, the French left the country. They all moved to London. The job creators, the entrepreneurs, they all moved to London, some of them US and Canada. London became the 6th largest French city in the world. That is not a good thing for France. What do you think is going to happen if you have another socialist president? Now, Macron is not an angel. He should literally go. He should go away. We don't want to see his face anymore. He should probably be investigated for a lot of things. He's a liberal globalist. But the solution is not a socialist leader. You're just making it worse. Now, the director of Frontiers, this is Eric Tagner, was on radio, and he said that we all know that Emmanuel Macron can no longer stand Bayrou. They are not friends. As I said, Bayrou interrupted Macron's holiday, which I'm really, on behalf of the Macron family, I'm very angry. Why are you doing this? And let's go to the video of this mention of essentially the divide between the two, which means Emmanuel Macron might not keep Bayrou in place.
Question, Eric Tegner. Vous pensez que c'est possible, le scénario de Brigitte qui nous appelle du Val-de-Loire?
Ça voudrait dire qu'on croit dans la dissolution. Moi, je ne pense pas. Je pense que Emmanuel Macron, si François Bayrou part, il va vouloir nommer par exemple Sébastien Lecornu. Il va être ravi, à mon avis.
Mais qu'est-ce que ça va changer, ça?
Mais pas grand-chose. Ça va lui faire gagner quelques mois. Il va revenir au centre du jeu parce que c'est son ami. Mais la dissolution, c'est trop compliqué pour lui parce que s'il la perd, il va être encore plus contraint de pouvoir démissionner. C'est ça le problème aujourd'hui. C'est pour ça qu'il y a 5 jours, Emmanuel Macron a dit qu'il refusait de dissoudre l'Assemblée nationale. Je pense qu'aujourd'hui, Emmanuel Macron, s'il a autorisé François Bayrou à faire ce qu'il a fait pour le 8 septembre, c'est parce qu'entre nous, ça l'amuse. On sait qu'il ne supporte plus François Bayrou. Il est entouré plus que de quelques caciques aujourd'hui, Emmanuel Macron, et parmi eux, il y a Sébastien Lecornu.
Even when the media hacks are getting it, that quite says a lot, right? Now, we only have a couple of weeks to go until the inevitable collapse. But it's about what happens after. That's the most important part. Is there an appetite for an election from the establishment's perspective? Not sure. There is definitely a massive appetite from the general population in France. They're hungry for it because they know this parliament is not working. The stock markets, the financial markets in France, is crumbling. Earlier today, after Bayrou joined the political establishment since the summer, last time, and over the last couple of days, when he moved to confirm the 8th of September confidence vote, the financial markets are freaking out. Mostly because they are scared, from their perspective it makes sense, they're scared that this is just going to be creating chaos. You keep Bayrou in government, it's chaos. You get rid of him and have a snap election, it's still chaos. Because either the socialists or the National Rally could win. So, from the perspective of the establishment, it's chaos, regardless. So, they are trying to basically put pressure on the establishment, including the president, to somehow try and find a way not to have a snap election. They're gonna find a way not to have this early election, but how long can they continue this? We don't know. We have to wait until the 8th of September and we will give you guys the live coverage. All right, so there's some reaction here. We got Carol from Australia saying, did you hear the Australian government announced today that they have labelled the IRGC a terrorist organisation just days before our huge march for the Australian National Rally? Yes, so that is good news. And yes, we will be covering, of course, what's going to happen in Australia as well. Things are changing. You can see the tide is turning on a global level. If that wave is going to reach the United Kingdom in terms of the IRGC being labelled a terrorist organisation, I'm still skeptical when it comes to the British state and the Foreign Office, but it's still good news. We got Canada and Australia recently joining this wave, and they are both technically Commonwealth, so that's good news. But why are they doing it? Because they know they're on the losing side. Tersbot says, I wouldn't mind if loads of French people came to London. They don't take any S better than the present occupiers. Okay, the thing is, I love the French, but there's a difference between the French and the Parisians. The Parisians, when they come, they bring their attitude. Oh, the attitude from Paris. Oh, no. But yeah, they're generally speaking good because they're mostly in West London. And they've integrated. They actually are willing to pay their taxes. They escaped France because of Hollande. And the last time they had an actual socialist president, because they didn't want to pay high taxes. But now that they came here, we still have high taxes, but not compared to France. They actually pay their taxes because, well, it's still better than what they had in their own country. But things are also changing here. So a lot of them have already moved. Some have moved to Canada, some moved to the US. And it seems like people keep going to the West. Now, if we get some reaction from the lovely members of Tousi TV Plus on our chat forum. What's going on? It angers me, the paramedic Patriot says, that all the money we send them, all they do is buy life jackets. No wonder they are unstable. This is the relationship between the UK and France. Yeah, they've got bigger problems than they're looking out. They're being worried about their neighbours in Britain. They can't even pass a budget in Paris. Hopefully, this is the beginning of the end of the Three Stooges. Yeah, well, I mean, Carney is still relatively new, so I think he's going to be in place for a while. Starmer will be going. He's not going to survive. He's not going to last that long. And Macron is gone. No one cares about Macron eventually. I mean, I still don't believe that he's going to be brought down. We just have to wait for the presidential election, which is not too long to go. Is this the French surrendering again? Give us our money back, you thieving rats. Roadblocks don't stop boats. The reality, I think, is that the political situation in France is so polarized, as I said, that you're never going to get concessions. So even compared to Germany, and Germany has been, historically speaking, well, modern history, culturally, politically, cultural level, just a political consensus is the thing. So that's why you have all these coalitions after coalitions, but they are willing to work together. The parties that don't agree tend to, apart from these days, obviously, the rise of the AfD. In France, you can't have that. They've tried. Minority governments, coalitions. It's not really easy. Let's not forget that the French, in terms of political culture, they gave the world the concept of right and left. The right wing and left wing was because of the National Assembly after the revolution. So they're never going to have consensus. So even when you have a government or president, both president and prime minister right now are what they call centrists. Now, the word centrist is a vague word. I hate that word. It's not really a thing. It's basically someone who's sitting on the fence trying to pander to both sides. And they are being hit by everybody in France. The left and the right, the center right, the center left. Everybody's hitting both the president and the prime minister. Because the French are, in a good way, they're hot-headed. They're like, they either want this or that. They're either capitalists or socialists. Like, just, they can't make that concession. the opposite of Britain. Things are getting bad in Britain now. People are getting angry. They're saying, no, we don't really care anymore. But for a very, very long time, the British culture politically was very patient, saying, okay, we will make compromises. We don't love the Tories in 2015, but well, fine, we'll vote for them. We're going to have a referendum. Boris, it's Boris, but let's trust him. But the thing is, there's always a limit. You keep trusting, and then that trust is broken. And eventually, even the British public are saying, we don't care. We're going to go with an alternative. We got another super chat from PC saying, Australia just expelled Iran's envoy. Will the UK follow suit? Yes, same as what Carol said earlier. No. Well, I mean, what you have, it's likely, but it's not. So right now, this is irrelevant to what we're talking about, by the way. The Islamic Republic are now pushing for negotiations with the Europeans because they realize they need help to survive. And they are asking the European leaders to save them. So meanwhile, embassies in Tehran are being closed. Mysteriously, right? Over the last few days, the British embassy and all the others are being closed because they know something is about to happen in Iran. So if, for example, the European leaders decide to expel or basically tell off the Iranian diplomats, it's simply part of the negotiations. It's carrots and sticks. But the embassies being closed in Tehran, that's panic. They know something is about to happen, either when it comes to military action or revolution. They don't want to be there. So we don't know what the British government is going to be doing. I still have no faith that they are going to be following what Australia and then Canada did, which is prescribing the IRGC as a terrorist organization. But yeah, there's always hope, right? Always a little bit of hope. Should we get some non-super chats as well? What's this? Saxon Snacker says, get rid of the illegals, all foreigners on benefits, and return to traditional faith. France needs to get rid of them too. Macron and the globalists need arresting. So up to a point, the French are trying to get rid of them by pushing them to come to England, which is quite smart. But yes, for the sake of France, they do need to sort it out. The problem in countries like France compared to the UK was after the colonies fell, with both the French Empire and the Brits, you had two different results. So the British Empire, which didn't really fall, it just voluntarily devolved itself into the Commonwealth and the overseas territories and say, we don't have an empire anymore. But the French fell. Like, they got kicked out of the colonies. It was messy, completely messy. It was worse than Britain leaving India. That was a mess. So what you had in the 60s and 70s, a huge wave of former colonies from, for example, Tunisia, Algeria, those sort of countries, when they went to France, from day one, a lot of them couldn't be compatible, and they always had cultural clashes. Now, of course, there were minorities, some of them been there for a long time, they integrated. But overall, there's a massive cultural difference between those from Algeria and a number of places, former French colonies, to the people in France, compared to, again, this is a stereotype, I'm not saying every single person, compared to, for example, the former colonies of the British Empire, for example, those coming from India, Nigeria, certain places, who came to the UK, and by that point, because of the influence of the British Empire in those countries for decades and decades, they were technically, again, not every single person, they were more British than the French colonies being French. So the good people who wanted to come from those countries to the UK to integrate, if they wanted to, they could. If they choose to integrate, they could. They were able to do it, compared to the French. So the problem of multiculturalism and there's clashes in France started before what's been going on over the last couple of decades with mass migration from the Middle East or North Africa. I mean, some of the French colonies were in North Africa anyway, but it wasn't just the illegal migrants. Decades ago, with legal migrants moving to France, that already created some issues. But at least the French still believed in the flag because of the revolution, the republic. In Britain, we're not even promoting, I mean, when I say we, I mean the establishment, I'm not even promoting the flag, let alone what it means to be British. You're not even promoting it. Even Emmanuel Macron in France, a few years ago, made it mandatory to fly the French flag in every school. Even Macron. So we don't have that here. That's the difference in the mentalities. Benny King says they pull all illegals to Germany. It's their fault. I agree. How many people always blame the French for everything? But let's not forget Germany, guys. Poor Germany. All right, so anyway, said no one. We'll keep you guys posted. Put it in your diaries. 8th of September, the vote of no confidence in the National Assembly in Paris. We'll bring you guys the live coverage. And of course, Tousi TV will remain your go-to source for geopolitical news. Don't forget to download the Tousi TV app, the home of geopolitical news. I'm Maya Tousi, and we are the media.